Welcome to our Fridays at First podcast. My name is Richard Gibbons. I'm a member of the pastoral staff at First Presbyterian Church here in downtown Greenville in South Carolina. As you can imagine, your intrepid Fridays at First correspondent regularly visits people in hospital. Recently, a friend related to me a most unusual discharge procedure. She told me that hospital regulations require a wheelchair for patients being discharged. While working as a student nurse, she found an elderly gentleman already dressed and sitting on his bed with a suitcase at his feet. He insisted he did not need any help in leaving the hospital. After a chat about rules being rules, he reluctantly let me wheel him to the elevator. On the way down, I asked if his wife had gone to get the car and would she be meeting him at the entrance. He responded, "I don't know. She's still in the bathroom, changing out of her hospital gown." And for those of you looking for something to do this weekend, tonight, Friday, March 28th at 7 o'clock, the Greenville Concert Band will present a fantastic musical selection in the Worship and Arts Centre. Please come and join us. Free tickets are available at greenvilleconcertband.org/concert schedule. That should be an outstanding event, and I look forward to seeing you there. As we move towards April, North Greenville University is inviting us to a Breakpoint event on their campus on Thursday evening, April the 3rd, in their Turner Chapel at 7 o'clock. They're pleased to welcome John Stonestreet, Katie McCoy and Andrew Walker. The theme for the forum is a new sexual revolution, living as image bearers, male and female. And you can register for this Breakpoint event by going to the Breakpoint website. This week, I am once again joined by my genial co-host, Michelle Ward, who is being joined by a guest whose voice you may recognise. And although you may recognise him, this is the first time he's ever been a guest on our podcast. Michelle, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, and happy Friday. I do have a very special guest with me today. In fact, he has a very cool accent, and this is a first. Welcome, Richard.
Michelle, thank you. And I have to confess, this is the first time I've been a guest on my own podcast. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, and I am so glad to have you because we are talking about one of the most significant weeks in the history of our faith today. We are talking all things Easter.
Mm-hmm. And Easter is that incredibly exciting time of year when across the world, millions of people celebrate the resurrection of Christ.
Absolutely. And it's not going to be any different here. We are so excited to tell you all a little bit about Holy Week. It's just a few weeks away. And Richard, I was thinking maybe our listeners would want to know, did you do anything differently with your celebrations when you all were in Scotland, or is it very similar?
It's very similar, and I suspect both here in North America and in the UK, we celebrate the same way as millions do across the world. And of course, Easter week begins with Palm Sunday, when we remember Christ the Messiah arriving in Jerusalem, and of course, we focus on the children and the crowd waving palm branches, and then we move to that pretty solemn event of Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and then the real celebrations begin when we recognise the resurrection of Christ on Easter Sunday.
Right. It's actually one of my family's favorite weeks here because so much is going on and so many things to be celebrated with it. Well, tell us, because we have 5 services, and it's a pretty big deal.
It is.
Tell us why we as a church have kind of come up with the idea of 5 services.
Well, what we discovered on Christmas, if I can go back a few months, is that so many people wanted to come and join us for those Christmas services, we had to make sure we had enough services to cover the need. And we're sensing that with Easter as well. And Easter is that spectacular time, as we mentioned moments ago, when our entire culture will celebrate the resurrection. In fact, nationally, about 60 million people go to church on a typical Sunday, but on Easter Sunday, it jumps up to 90 million people. Wow. And so we're expecting a significant increase over our normal Sunday morning attendance, and so we felt 5 services would be a good way to go.
I agree. We do have a lot of people coming in and out of church here that day. And you've got some different things happening at different services. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. As you mentioned moments ago, our services are both in the sanctuary and in the Worship and Arts Centre, beginning at 8 o'clock, 9:15, 9:30, 10:45 and 11. And at 10:45 and 11, we have a little surprise for the congregation, as the children will be participating in a way that parents and grandparents won't see until it happens. Oh. The word flash mob may come to mind. So it is pretty exciting stuff, but I can't say more at this point.
Wow. Well, and I know, will there be candy maybe?
Maybe. Oh dear, I was given a hard time last year by throwing candy into the crowd, and I also saw one dad with a catcher's mitt. And so I'm trying to be careful with it, but certainly there'll be candy for the kids.
All right, dads, if you're listening, bring your catcher's mitts. That's wonderful. Well, I know it's going to be a beautiful celebration, and the 10:45 that he's just talking about with the children is going to be in the Worship and Arts Center, and the 11 will be in the sanctuary.
Correct.
So however, wherever you like to celebrate, you've got two options for those children's services. And I know the last time we talked with our events team, we were looking for around 250 volunteers. Do you know where we stand with that today?
I think we're just over the 100 mark.
Okay.
And to have 100 volunteers after asking for 2 Sundays is quite an accomplishment.
Right.
And yet we've another few weeks to go. And our pattern here at First Pres, as you know as well as anyone, is that folks tend to volunteer the week before.
Right.
But we do need a little more notice than that, because to get what we hope will be around 4,000 people parked crossroads, get in and out the building, going to both the Worship and Arts Centre and the Sanctuary, that takes a lot of organising. And so we need as many folks to volunteer as possible and to volunteer as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And you all, we're looking for ushers, greeters, parking attendants, and then you can still go in and celebrate Easter with your families, and you can still have your pictures made at the beautiful crosses that we'll have around the church.
We will, and that's also a new emphasis for us this year. We're conscious that families love the tradition of having their photograph taken beside a cross that's decorated for the celebration of Easter Sunday morning. And this year, instead of having 2 crosses, we now have 4.
Oh, wow.
So if families are wanting to come dressed up for Easter and will have special memories, that's the time to do it. So please encourage the congregation to come and join us and participate in standing with their families in front of those crosses. And those are images that families, I think, will treasure for the rest of their days.
Forever. You're exactly right. Well, that's wonderful. Well, we actually have our own Easter website. It's firstpreseaster.com. And you can find out about all of the different services from Palm Sunday to Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday, and obviously Easter. And we also have a children's activity book that is really, really sweet, that you can do different activities, coloring, and just, again, learning more about Jesus' resurrection. And that's downloadable. So check out our firstpreseaster.com. If you're able to volunteer, make sure to reach out to Linda Schultes. And Richard, is there anything else you would like to share about Easter?
Please don't be surprised if I don't give out all of the candy and I may take some home with me. Well, actually, it may not make it home. It depends how many traffic lights I get to on the way home.
Well, I think if you've preached 5 services on that Sunday, you might deserve some candy. So
thank you.
Well, Richard, thank you, as always, for all you do and for serving our congregation. And we are just very grateful for you. I know I'm personally grateful for your jokes, as many of our colleagues are. But thanks so much again for being here.
Michelle, thank you. And can you put the part about jokes in writing for me?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Michelle and Richard, thank you for being guests on our podcast today. We appreciate you being with us. For those of you who are listening and have been prayerfully considering putting down your spiritual roots and becoming a member here at First Presbyterian, then join us for our new member weekend. It is coming up Friday and Saturday, April 11 and 12. Childcare is available for children aged 5 and under, and you can register at firstpresgreenville.org/events. And as we move towards Sunday, our moment for mission this weekend will involve some breaking news from our Capital campaign team. This news is so important you won't want to miss it. They will provide us with a brief update on where we are as a congregation and where we are going as we move into this final year of our fundraising. The last few years have been extraordinary for us as a congregation, and we're immensely grateful to you. We simply could not have achieved all that we have accomplished without your prayerful and sacrificial support to all that God is calling us to. Thank you. Also on Sunday, we will be continuing to explore our new study series in the book of Acts. Please take a moment and read Acts chapter 11, verses 19 through 26 as you prepare for worship on Sunday. It is a remarkably exciting passage and one you won't want to miss. Meanwhile, I trust you have a great weekend and I look forward to welcoming you on Sunday.